This is a painted copy of Giorgione Adoration of the Shepherds. Here at your left, the copy and the original Giorgione at the right side. The copy is 1/4 the size of the original. You can see that the copyist has done a big change here on the left side. He replaces the brook by a triangle-shaped burial, which give a much darker side to the copy. The left rocky landscape is strangely fragmented in the copy. The original is flatter and more plain. The copy looks similar at first glance, but has a secret side to it. This fragmentation creates double images. Many of the rocks are in the shape of faces. The highlight of the work is a hidden anatomical drawing of the human head in the lower left rocky landscape. Octavio Ocampo is a Mexican artist who specializes in double images. Normally, he builds his own composition from start to finish, like we see here. Here's an exception. He copied the Mona Lisa into a surrealist painting, crowded in double images. The big advantage to do such thing is that you focus all your attention not to create a new composition, but to change it drastically. If you choose the right existing painting to use as a platform, this process gives more possibilities in the exploration of double images. Look how the rocky landscape is easy to manipulate. The Giorgione copy does the same, but the amount of rocky landscape space available is greater. As we will see, the copyist will exploit the Giorgione rocky landscape to the very edge of possibilities. Here we have a close detail of the expulsion of Adam and Eve from paradise, done by Michelangelo in 1510. Look how he creates a double image from rocks, similar of what you need to see and understand in the Giorgione copy. In this chapter, I will describe the best I can the double images of the copy. I will present them one by one. Many of them need to be seen directly to truly acknowledge them. They need to remain invisible to the common eye, so sometime the copyist needs to be careful not to make them too much obvious. Often, they are not 100% defined, and often they are somehow abstract. Understanding closely this painting is a long process. At least now you can see them and began to make an opinion on the matter. These double images remain an artistic and creative endeavor and must be processed like that, and this is a delicate task to do. I will present the double images in 3 sections: lower left painting, lower right, and finally the upper right painting, or the cavern section. Always go back and forth from the original to the copy. It will help you out. In each case, I will show you the Giorgione original corresponding detail in the frame. The lower left section is quite strangely fragmented. These fragments lead to a large set of double images. For sure, this is the prime section you need to study. There are 2 hidden anatomical drawings in this section. The lower right section has fewer double images, but they are quite creative. Again, you must understand the modifications done by the copyist. They lead to double images that doesn't exist in the original. The upper right cavern section is curvier in the copy and blockier in the original. The copyist has done a very special reversible set of double images. You can rotate clockwise or anti-clockwise to see them better. The main highlight of the painting is an anatomical drawing of the human head, hidden in the lower left rocky landscape. Everything in this section is billed in that purpose. You can rotate the painting 90 degrees clockwise to see it better. After a comparison with the original Giorgione, we can acknowledge that this feature doesn't exist at all in the original. To trace back the creative roots of the Giorgione copy, we must go back to the Sistine Ceiling Commission and learn some things about it. Specifically, we must understand that Michelangelo's approach to tackle this giant task was very different than any other painter's. Michelangelo didn't have a large set of his own imagery in painting. He relied heavily on his exceptional knowledge of Italian art and his formidable drawing skills. A common painter of the Renaissance would simply take his own style and own pool of ideas and apply it to the commission. Michelangelo was forced by Julius II to make the Sistine Chapel ceiling fresco. Julius wanted apostles as a subject. Michelangelo was in a bad situation, and at least he was able to obtain a concession from Julius II. The theme will be the Genesis, not the apostles. The Book of Genesis theme would help Michelangelo to divide the ceiling in many panels, instead of just one giant scene. He would rely heavily on Jacopo della Quercia's and Lorenzo Ghiberti's works to help him out as an overall framework to build the huge ceiling. Michelangelo has a very good ability to appropriate everything he sees and use it to his advantage. So here I will show you good examples of how Michelangelo can copy or recycle existing work in new and fresh designs, and no one will truly notice it. The creation of Adam. Michelangelo reorganizing Lorenzo Ghiberti panel, adding his own skills to sketch male pose. Adam and Eve, the fall and the expulsion from Garden of Eden. Here he blends some different artists' works in a new and very effective composition. Abraham, recycling Ghiberti's work for the Sistine ceiling. In that chapter, I will start showing you the journey of Michelangelo in the art of double images. As we said earlier, Michelangelo was forced to paint the Sistine ceiling, and before all, Michelangelo is a sculptor, not a painter. So don't be surprised if unconventional things happen here. In 1991, Dr. Frank Lynn Meshberger of Indianapolis published an interpretation of Michelangelo's creation of Adam. In this publication, he said basically that Michelangelo deliberately drew the shape of a brain in the clothes behind God in the creation of Adam, giving Adam the intellect. Thereafter, Dr. Garabed Aknoyan wrote a paper in 2000, Art, Anatomy, and the Kidney. Finally, in 2005, two Brazilian doctors, Gilson Barreto and Marcelo de Oliveira, pretended that there was more hidden anatomy in the Sistine ceiling. Everything can make a lot of sense when we know that Michelangelo was one of the very few ones that has performed human dissection. Also, by the fact that as a sculptor, he was thinking more in three-dimension, and a double image could be a kind of way to develop another dimension to painting. To support that, we must study the fourth panel, the expulsion of Adam and Eve. The first panel were kind of a technical challenge to Michelangelo. Thereafter, he was more at ease. The creative awareness of the Florentine artist grew a little more. So, we see a double image which is a rock drawn in the shape of a face here. It was, I think, a last-minute inspiration overriding his cartoon. I think from this moment he knew he could do something more, hiding an anatomical lesson in the following 5 panels. So, the theories of the doctors above make absolute sense. I will show you now the hidden anatomical lesson as they appear, with a few annotations. Here we see the 3 figures pointing their shoulder. In 1950, a Venezuelan diplomat named Joaquin Diaz Gonzalez wrote a book arguing that an outline of the face of Dante, the poet, was hidden in the arrangement of the figures in the Last Judgment. He also saw a giant depiction of Jesus on the cross. We can see here his book and his outline. Well, this seemed at first glance total rubbish to me, but I studied this proposal more carefully and found surprisingly more to it. Having the Giorgione painting, I knew exactly what to look for. Traces of human anatomy in this hidden profile, and some clues that are left by the artist. In fact, there are precise anatomical features that are much too accurate to be coincidences. The green lines here show us that the hidden profile is perfectly placed in the center. The profile of the head is perfect. The angulation is also perfect. The outline of the angels fit perfectly with real tongue anatomy, trumpets making sounds like a mouth would do. All this could just not be a coincidence. There are also many other elements that support the thesis that Michelangelo intendedly hide many things in the Last Judgment. First, he depicted his own face in the flayed skin of St. Bartholomew. Second, he depicted Cardinal Biagio da Cesena, a harsh critic of the fresco in the representation of Minos. Finally, some people have said that the lower right side representing hell is at the same time a bigger image of a human skull. This proposal about a giant hidden profile is straight, in line with the anatomical lesson of the Sistine ceiling, and the anatomical features that I have underlined in the Giorgione copy. They have all the same artistic DNA. They simply evolved over time in a more complex way. In this chapter, I want to outline 2 Italian Renaissance artists that are important in our story, Sebastiano del Piombo and Luca Signorelli. Sebastiano del Piombo was the only one that worked closely with both Michelangelo and Giorgione. Sebastiano del Piombo is believed to have completed some of Giorgione's unfinished works after his death. When he went to Rome in 1511, he became one of the few painters to get on well with Michelangelo. Their most celebrated collaboration was the Raising of Lazarus. Michelangelo tried to promote del Piombo's career by encouraging him to compete for commissions against Raphael. The Adoration of Shepherds being a late work of Giorgione might well be one of the works that del Piombo took out to Rome to finish it. It makes sense to say that Michelangelo could have been in close contact with the Giorgione painting. Also, Rome was the oldest city outside Venice where we know the Adoration of the Shepherds was. Michelangelo was quite influenced by Luca Signorelli in his younger years. Signorelli's dark imagery of skulls, bones, and demons made a great impact on Michelangelo. Also, the nudity that Signorelli was willing to exploit was also artistically valued by Michelangelo. In the Giorgione copy, there are important features that turned my attention on very early in 1999. The triangle-shaped burial and the demon face in the upper cavern. These features gave a dark side to the painting which I couldn't ignore. The art of Luca Signorelli seems to fit perfectly the dark mood of the Giorgione copy. Luca Signorelli was my prime suspect for a long time, but eventually for timing reason and artistic reasons I had to dismiss him as a suspect. Michelangelo became my prime suspect. Michelangelo was greatly influenced by Signorelli's dark side and other aspects of his art. There are a lot of fantastic features in the art of Michelangelo. Demons, skulls, grotesque figures, double images, and else. The first work we can show you in that regard is the painted copy of the Torment of St. Anthony by Michelangelo, who painted this close copy of the famous engraving by Martin Schongauer when he was only 12 or 13 years old. Here are some other drawings or sculptures. Also, I can show you two drawings that turn into a double image. First, Studies of a Man Digging, 1501. Second, Profiles of Bases for the Medici Chapel, 1920. Double images already existed well before 1546. Here are some examples that Michelangelo might have seen in Italy. Sometime in nature, strange coincidence can occur. We all did play the game of scanning the clouds to find images. Most of the time, they are not well defined. Very defined random double images can happen, but they are very rare. Here are some examples. When we have these double images, we could say that in some way fiction and reality merge together. The copyist understood this, and he knew that the ability to play in that field provided a kind of free creative space, completely free of conventions or censorship because very few people will able to notice it. The fact that this is a copy has no true importance. The real important thing to understand is that the Giorgione rocky landscape offers a unique and irreplaceable space of creation for this radical-minded copyist. Giorgione died in 1510. The Adoration of the Shepherds was a late work for him. As we said, the painting could well have been relocated by Sebastiano del Piombo to Rome in 1511. You can follow both provenances here, with the red arrows representing the original Giorgione and green arrows representing the Giorgione copy. Here we see the correspondence between Michelangelo and Francis I, King of France in 1546. We see here that after the request from the King of France for having sculptures, Michelangelo accepted to do 2 sculptures and, surprisingly, 1 painting. So here Michelangelo was enthusiastic about doing a painting in a totally unsolicited context, and by his own initiative, which is extremely rare for Michelangelo. So here we can assume that Michelangelo has already something special in mind for a painting. After the French Revolution, the province of Quebec was a shelter for many religious works. They were brought to the numerous churches. Also, many French resident moves from France to province of Quebec each year. The link here between France and the province of Quebec should not be interpreted as a coincidence. To be honest, I have done everything I can here to try to raise interest in the Giorgione copy. I know this painting extremely well after having this painting for 26 years. The copy was done only in order to explore double images. I don't think that understanding the copy should be so difficult after all indications that I provided. It's a simple observation job that need to be done. I hope you will have interest into this painting, and I hope we could work together on this painting.